All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the EPD committee together January 4th, 2022, 6 p.m. All members are present. Staff is present. We're going to go ahead and take our first public comment period. Do we have anybody that would like to provide public comment during this first of two periods? Hearing none, there will be another. What do I hear on the reading and approval of minutes?
Make a motion to approve the minutes of December the 6th as submitted.
We have a motion from Ms. Kuzner. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it. Minutes are approved as presented. Reports of communications from city officers. Mr. Broad, Happy New Year.
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Our budget is at 56% of an ideal 46%, 49% remaining. So we're in good shape in our budget. We continue to work on development opportunities for the city. The center had a fantastic year this past year. A lot of good things happening. So I think Mr. Parker's up in a few minutes with a presentation or just an update and a report to council. And then we have some other stuff under our business section that we'll look at then. So that's really it, unless you've got some questions for me.
Thank you, Mr. Broad. Any questions for Mr. Broad? All right. Thank you, my friend. Next up, we have Drew Parker, who's going to provide an update on City Center Village.
Hey, everybody. Can you give me a thumbs up if you can hear me? Great. Thank you. The video is unfortunately not working. I'm on my partner's computer. So you'll see Matt's glamour shot on the screen. Yeah, so to give you an update, we've made great progress on our design and permitting for the city center parcels. We're in the final stages of that. I think with our permitting, we are going back and forth with some comments. Should have that wrapped up soon and be permitted for the pickle yard and the townhome site. There are no changes to the closing timeline, which we're targeting for February. We're looking at having a call next week with Co-Transco in the city to get an update on the road. That's a critical milestone to get the information needed to time our project and coordinate it with the new road. So everything looking very positive with that. Upon closing on the city center parcels, we will be in a position to begin construction almost immediately. So couldn't be more excited about that. It's just getting the holidays behind us. The holidays are always a joy, but getting those behind us now allows everybody we need working to be back at work and let us get our projects going. So very excited about that. On 1 East Butler, Maverick Station, we are moving at a great pace and still anticipate having Bohemian Bull and Sully's open by the spring. We will be in a position, hopefully, to name some new exciting tenants in the next 30 to 45 days on the remaining spaces there. So I can tell you the interest has been very high. We're also very careful to choose the right tenant mix that'll be great for Malden and great for the other tenants that are in that building. So all good good progress, and couldn't be more excited to hit 2022 running.
I had somebody hit me up about Sully's this morning, Drew, so there's a lot of excitement about that. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Parker? All right, Drew, you are clear. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to everybody there, and look forward to seeing you in the next few days.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
All right, we have no unfinished business, so that's going to move us into new business. And the first piece is an MOU regarding parking for Maverick Station. Is that going to be a Mr. Broad or a Mr. Madden?
I'll take care of it. So what you have before you is a memorandum of understanding between City of Malden and East Butler Investments, which will be managed by the Parker Group. It is to allow for usage of the city hall parking lot for the tenants of the new development that is currently underway at 1 East Butler Road. And so the area they would have access to is outlined in an exhibit in your agenda packet. And it essentially is, pull it up on the screen here, essentially is this entire area outlined in red. So they would have, through this memorandum of understanding, they would have access, the patrons of this development here would have access to this area outlined in red. If the city needed to reserve space for an event or that the city may be sponsoring, then that could occur as well. This just makes sure that it is clear that during the normal operating hours, the patrons of that establishment will have access to parking in the area outlined in red. So that essentially is what's outlined in the MOU.
Any questions for Mr. Madden about the MOU? Mr. Crayling?
One question I had of looking at this here, doesn't have any like assigned spaces for police officers. I fear that we could have a crowd of people and we can't get to the cars. I don't know if that's been looked at, but maybe having a few spaces, at least say at bare minimum, these cannot be parked in by any. That I had there. Not anticipating they would necessarily need all the spaces, but I'd rather have that than not.
Yeah, absolutely. So what staff could do is, if it's at the pleasure of the committee, work with the Parker Group to look at some spaces right outside of the police entryway that's reserved for the police vehicle.
Thank you.
Ms. Kuzner?
Thank you, Mr. Matney. Mr. Mann, so one of my concerns is like when we have council meetings, those on those nights that we have those, will the right to restrict be used? And how will that like be enforced?
Yeah, so we could amend the memorandum of understanding so that on first Mondays or council meeting nights, certain areas within that red will be reserved for attendees of the council meeting.
Okay.
And just to kind of piggyback on that, if we're on a Monday night or a Tuesday night for a council meeting, which is generally when we would meet, a lot of times restaurants are going to be closed on those nights anyway, or at the very least, it's not going to be their busy nights. They don't start cranking up till Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I wouldn't anticipate any council meetings or council events taking up parking space that would really conflict with them, just from a restaurant business standpoint. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion to accept this memorandum of understanding for the parking at City Hall to go to full council.
All right, Ms. Kuzner made a motion to forward this to council for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Crayling. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we're forwarding this to full council. Next, we're looking at an agreement for environmental services with Terracom.
Yes, so what you have before you is a request to approve an agreement with Terracom to provide technical assistance to the city as it proceeds with the Brownsfield grant that it received last year. And so the city received a $300,000 grant, and in order to proceed with that, technical assistance is being requested through Terracom. So that is the agreement that you have before you to provide that.
Yeah. Do we have a motion?
This time I'd like to make a motion to approve the agreement with Terracon, the environmental services.
Okay, we have a motion.
I'm sorry, forward to committee, the agreement.
Forward to council.
Council, sorry,
I got you.
council, the agreement for environmental services with Terracon.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we're forwarding that to full council. That's going to bring us to the certification of 1 Jenkins Street as an abandoned textile mill site. This one kind of surprised me too, but Mr. Madden.
Yes, so the Parker Group has requested certification of the Jenkins Street facility, the former Jenkins Street, where Public Works was housed, for an abandoned utility tax credit. Essentially, that site served as a cotton mill, I believe in the 50s. And then it became a sanitation site for the city public works. So Parker Group is requesting that the city certify that it was a former textile mill, which will allow them to receive a tax credit that once they close on the property, become the actual owners of the property. That's what's being requested tonight.
I got a history lesson when I found that out. I didn't realize that it was an old cotton gin. Do we have a motion?
I'll make a motion to forward this resolution to certify the textile mill to full council.
Okay, we have a motion from Ms. Kuzner. Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we're forwarding this to full council. That brings us to approval of utility easement with East Butler Investments LLC.
And so, members of the committee, Chairman Matney, what you have before you is a utility easement for the Jenkins, the East Butler Road property that's being developed by the Parker Group. I'm gonna pull it up on the map to help explain it. So this is the building that's being renovated right across the lot here at City Hall. There are a number of utility easements that cut across city-owned property, which is the parking lot, and will go into the building that's being renovated. So in order to assist the Parker Group in their development, what's being requested is a utility easement that will allow them to access utility lines as they do the needed upgrades to the facility. And outlined on this map is each of the utilities that are there, pretty much every single one except for electricity. And so the easement would be across those areas. So it's not a blanket easement where they will have access across the entire site that's owned by the city, just enough space for them to access those utility lines that are highlighted on this map.
And with that, do we have a motion?
Make a motion to send this utility easement to full council.
We have a motion from Ms. Kuzner. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Kraling. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. Forward to full council. And I think this is our final item. Amendment to the Momentum Construction Contract for the replacement of the Cultural Center roof. Mr. Broad, you want to take this one? I know this one's near and dear to your heart.
Oh, sure, absolutely. And actually, I think what we are requesting is that we extend the contract for Momentum Construction, who's already doing the lobby renovation. While we were doing the work there, and we've had some ongoing HVAC problems leaking into the ceiling, and Matt and his team have been working hard to determine whether it was roof leaking, whether it was HVAC leaking. So we've kind of been going back and forth between that, and he discovered, I believe in 2013, there was a roof put on that building. So I think our suggestion and recommendation would be to allow Momentum Construction working with Public Works to expand the scope of their services to do a full evaluation assessment of the roof to see if it actually needs replacing or can it be repaired, because it's not, but 9 years old or so. And also Mr. Madden has reached out, and maybe Matthew as well, to the group that the roofing company that did that, to see if we could find out some information about that. So what we would request is allow Momentum Construction to add this scope of service and work to their contract that is currently ongoing with the city for the lobby, and not to exceed $75,000. We have gotten 3 quotes in, and the highest one was 75 if the roof needs to be fully repaired, replaced. Our goal would be to maybe just fix what's broken. What maybe if there's shingles or something that need to be replaced without replacing the whole roof, but let them do an assessment. And if you guys would like to have them bring that back to council, they can do that too as well. But you're,
So essentially, we would be looking at extending the Momentum Construction contract in an amount not to exceed $75,000 to also extend the scope of service to replace the roof of the cultural center.
if needed, do an assessment and
I know this is coming from H&A. Does that impact anything that we have currently going on with H&A or would have going on with H&A?
It will not. It will not.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
So I have a question. So they'd be the people, make sure Momentum be doing the inspection and the service.
no, they would contract to do the service. They're currently the contractor for the lobby renovation, so they would hire a roofing company to come in. It won't change the scope of their contract with us.
I guess where I have a problem with that, I mean, I'd like to make sure that everything goes through Mr. Fleeman.
Oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because it's, it's one of our assets. Roof should not, 9 years is to have a leak is, I mean, a leak that could be easily fixed, no big deal. But if it's a major roof replacement, you got an issue.
Oh,
Especially with-
absolutely.
Especially with the original contractor. I believe it's probably a 30-year roof, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Mr. Craylon, you bring a good point. So the efforts of Momentum Construction will be in coordination with Public Works. So this would essentially make sure that their contract is amended so that they're responsible for the work, but they will be working hand in hand with Public Works because it is an asset to make sure that what, I don't know, occurred in 2013 doesn't occur again, whereby we don't have any asset information on new roof, including things such as the warranty, type of shingles that were used. So it will be done in coordination with Public Works.
And I guess the other question I have is it been assessed for damage, hail damage, when something along those lines, could any of this be caused and be covered by insurance? That'd be the other question I have because if this is some damage, we just don't see it, right? Big gust of wind came up, lifted a bunch of tiles up.
Sure.
I just like to make sure we go through that. So I guess with this, I would like to make sure that, again, everything goes through Mr. Fleeman. Just to make sure that we have that covered. Just,
No pressure.
yeah. Okay.
And I would just add, we're in the middle of the current renovation for the lobby and several of the areas that we're expanding and fixing and cleaning up. One of those areas is continuing to leak every time it rains. So, which is, I guess, a little of an indication that there's a problem somewhere with the roof. We did have some HVAC issues too, where some of the drain lines up there were leaking through the ceiling as well, but we think we've got those fixed.
With that being said, are we on schedule?
Yes, sir, we are. We are hosting a fundraising gala February 24th, and we're going to get the key the day before. We hope. But, or the day
And honestly,
of,
that's the
right,
reason
or it
that
could
this
be the
got
day
added
of.
to the agenda last night.
Yeah, we'll be close. I mean, it's possible that there could be, a few things that aren't,
So if I see you putting tents up in the backyard, I know what's going on.
yes, sir.
All right.
Ms. Kuzner, do you have any questions for Mr. Broad?
I do not, thank you.
All right, do we have a motion?
This time I'd like to make a motion for the amendment to the Momentum contract as discussed here.
Is there a second?
I'm sorry, to go to council.
Second,
We have a motion and a second. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it, and we're forwarding this to full council. This brings up our second public comment period. Does anybody have anything that they would like to say to the committee? Hearing none. Do I have committee concerns? Hearing none. What do I hear on adjournment?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. We are adjourned.
All right, I'd like to call this call to order the Public Works Committee meeting. It is 6:22 on my watch. All members in attendance. Start with public comment. Any public comment today? And
There's no one online that's indicated that they would like to speak.
all right, let's move on then to reading and approval of minutes.
Motion to approve as submitted?
Motion, do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. We'll move on. All right, reports from our Mr. Fleeman. Mr. Chairperson.
As far as the budget goes, this the report I ran, we're supposed to have 51% of our budget remaining at this period of time. Sewer sits at 75, streets at 60, sanitation at 54, fleet at 48, and parks at 56. So we're all right around where we need to be. Sewer is a little bit high, but that number gets skewed because we do depreciation and we don't take that off till the end of the year. But we're right on track with where we need to be at this point.
Then I think, Matt, you were going to provide a quick update on the purchase of the truck, the day cab truck.
Yes, that's the, okay, I was unsure. So about that. We had previously, Public Works had brought forth an idea where we would haul the brush and leaves with a day cab and trailer. You guys came through committee, we went through, council, was approved. When I started to solicit the quotes off the state contract, basically none of the contracts are valid anymore. Supply chain issues, circuit boards, one excuse after another. The ultimate price when we finally got, from the vendors that are on the state contract, what the price would be, the truck price went up significantly, about $50,000. So, when we were looking at, with all the numbers I crunched, yes, it's still, there's still a quick payback. But obviously the upfront costs have increased from $90,000 for a truck to $150,000 for a truck, or 146. And so, because the change was so significant, Brandon and I felt like it should come back through committee for us to discuss, or have an opportunity for you to reevaluate, ask questions, whatever you may choose. But the price that was in my original presentation was the state contract price. It's no longer being honored because of the state of the world.
On that, we had a little discussion on it. Is this a temporary thing? Is it is this gone up? It's 50%, it's over 50% increase. So my suggestion was we kind of did drag our feet a little bit on this and see if it doesn't come back down because of the shortages. I don't know how the rest of the committee feels. That was my thought, is because at the end of the day, we still wouldn't be getting these until midsummer at best.
If we ordered now, it would be August.
Yeah,
Or later.
so if we drug our feet a month or two, we could save $20,000-$30,000 and then still have it by the fall. That was the thought. It was just a suggestion. Does the committee members here feel?
Have you looked past state contract on straight to vendors?
Yes. We could definitely go into the used market, but if we were to stay with brand new, you really can't beat the state contract prices, I mean, the difference is significant. I did acquire a bunch of quotes for Brandon and there was nothing even close. Then the state contractors were Carolina International and Sealy. And both of them were the two lowest prices, no matter who you went to.
Thank you. I tend to agree with Mr. Kraling. It's not going to hurt for you to continue to do your due diligence and keep a check on it with Mr. Madden and then bring it back to committee when perhaps the market changes. And no one has a crystal ball, so we don't know. I mean, the price could go up in 2 months. So I don't think it's going to hurt to pause for a moment if that's the wish of committee at this point in time, but.
All right, I mean, across the board in the automotive, whether it be big truck or even just pickup trucks, there's such a demand and no product, and basic economics just
Trust
kills
me, I had an employee that ran out to the car lot at 3:30 because something came in that he wanted. They said, if you want it, you better come get it now or it's going to be gone. So yeah, I mean, it's just where we are today, as you said. Thank you, Mr. Kraling.
For that note, I'll still drive my 25-year-old truck versus the paying the increase.
But you may not have a choice now.
Exactly. Regardless, that's what I tell my wife. Oh, right. Right. Any other questions?
I think a refresher, I mean, if you're talking, you're still talking about almost $1 million saved over 10 years. I tend to look at it and not to play devil's advocate, but at the same time, 50,000 compared to 850 is minimal. So my concern is waiting too long.
Right.
And 50 isn't 50, it's 75. And you still ain't going to get it until December. So, I'll go with the bulk of the committee here, but I would probably be much more inclined to move forward. Just me personally.
I think the idea of dragging but not stopping and just use your best judgment. If you think prices are going to continue to skyrocket, come back to us. And if need be, we have if all of a sudden it's going to be 200,000 for it, do you think in the next couple weeks we'll have a special committee meeting or something along that lines? In case something like that was come up, I suspect that we'll start getting more chips in. Some of the materials start coming out. And we'll start reducing the prices, but who knows with the rest of everything else under inflation right now. Right.
Thank you, Mr. Penn.
Thank you. All right. Let's see. New business. So wait, there's no, I'm sorry, unfinished business. There is no unfinished business. New business, a resolution for the construction manager.
Yes, Mr. Kraling, members of the committee, the city had completed last year a quarter-mile section of a trail across from Malden High School that ultimately connect to the pedestrian bridge that will be built across I-385. There's no entryway into that trail. And so council set aside funding this year to construct an entryway. And staff put out a RFQ for bidders to receive proposals from construction firms to manage the construction of the entryway there. Sealy Construction was the sole bidder on that RFQ. And so what's before you is a contract with Sealy to complete that project. I do want to note in the agreement, Mr. Allgood brought to my attention there's an environmental provision in there that does not apply in this situation, and so that can be removed. But that's what's being requested from staff, approval of the resolution authorizing the mayor to execute the contract with Sealy Construction.
Here.
Mr. Chair, I'll go ahead and make the motion to forward to full council the resolution to approve an agreement with Sealy Construction Company.
Have a motion?
I'll second it.
A second. Any discussion? For that? Those in favor vote, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. The ayes have it. The motion moves forward. All right. Amendment to solid waste ordinance.
All right, thank you. What you have in front of you is a request from, that the Public Works Committee, and City Council approve, a revision to the solid waste ordinance, which will require contractors to haul off leaves, contracted landscaping jobs. Little background, you know, we pick up leaves, brush, pretty much anything you put at the curb. Only caveat when it comes to brush is that if a contractor puts it out there, the contractor hauls it away. So we kind of looked at leaves the same way. We get inundated, we get the complaints, we all hear and we understand. Everyone wants their leaves away at the same time. But there are areas of the city where entire neighborhoods are done by contractors. I think Forest or Woods Estates, takes 2 days, 2 trucks, 24 loads, and not a single leaf was brought to the curb by a resident. In situations like this citywide, we tend to fall behind, complaints ramp up. No one wants their leaves gone. So what you have before you is a revision to the solid waste ordinance, which basically indicates that if a contractor is doing the work, the contractor hauls it off, same as the brush. If approved, just like any other change with our ordinances, we do the door hangers, we'll get the communication out, we'll do the website, we'll social media blitz, we'll do everything we can to educate. And basically, we're at the tail end of the leaf season, so if this is approved, it really is really not going to affect anyone until October of this year.
Questions? Have a motion.
I'm on a roll. I'm going to make a motion to forward to full council the ordinance to amend Article 1 of Chapter 34 of the City of Malden Code of Ordinances, which will indicate that contractors will be responsible to haul off any leaves collected from residential properties.
Could I have a motion? In that case, like the second motion. With that, any discussion?
Thank you, Chairman. I think from my position, it's one of these things that I look at, the policing of this is a pretty big concern for me. While it's easy to look and say forest or woods, the states may have a significant portion. There's also name your other subdivision where half of the yards are done by homeowners, half of them are not. So I have a concern with how we even police it. I'm of the opinion we make investments in our processes, in our guys, and make sure they've got the right equipment to make it as efficient a process as possible, which is why I would obviously in support of making sure we have a leaf truck and we can make it as efficient as possible. But I have a lot of concern with policing. It's one thing to police someone renovating an entire house. Certainly they shouldn't put the stuff on the side of the road, but yard waste being collected every week, that to me becomes much more of a policing issue. But that's just my thought on this one. So I certainly have, when we're talking about cutting a tree down, that's a no-brainer because that's easy to spot, it's easy to cut down, it's easy for them to haul off, and they should be doing it. This one gets where you get the net even wider, so I have a concern with how we even address it for every single resident that has their contractors do it. That said, I'm not wholly against it, but I wouldn't support it right now, but it can still go to council for discussion.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm on the total opposite end of the spectrum, Mr. Freeman. I respect you and applaud you for bringing this to our attention. I'm embarrassed to say that I did not realize that. I had always wondered why the contractor leaves that were being put on the side of the street were being picked up by the city. I thought that we just didn't know that the contractor put them out there. So shame on me for that. I'm all about consistency and, you know, we don't pick up trees. Contractors know that. They also know that we don't pick up leaves. So they're just, we have residents that are continuously complaining that we do not pick the leaves up in a, quick manner. We all realize that those leaves tend to fall at the same time, and we all like to pick up the leaves when it's sun shining outside. So all those leaves end up on the street. It's just the same story, different day kind of thing. So having said that, I'm in favor of this amendment. I think I know fairs where you go buy cotton candy and ride rides, but for our residents and those who do get out there and dump their leaves and they sit there for a month, hopefully this would help the city with getting those folks' leaves up in a more efficient manner. As the mayor would like to say, just one person's opinion. Actually, he says one man's opinion. I can't completely quote him on that. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And on that, actually, this was brought to us by a citizen who actually was reading through our policies and wanted to know why this wasn't, because it always been expressed to them. And to be honest, I thought the same, that this was already in the books, that it was leaves. The leaves were included when they were not. And we may even come down to where we stated that without going back and reading the actual text. With that being said, talking with folks, we have some contractors that are very good at hauling everything away. We have some that are very bad. I think if as far as the enforcement, that one contractor who comes in and we don't, in and out of Malden, we may have a harder time getting, but the one that may have a large area or have multiple areas that's here a lot, we'll start to identify who those contractors are, and especially if they're charging to have that hauled away, they're getting paid to haul that away. We can start identifying them and say, hey, if you want to continue doing business here in Malden, it's your job to haul this away. That's part of the responsibility. Because some of them are also bad. It's not just leaves. They do it with brush. They do it with other things, and we have a hard time enforcing that now. So I do agree with you, but we do find people, some of the contractors find that, go after them.
Right, and I think that's my concern is we have a hard time enforcing it now. Right? And we're just expanding that net. I don't disagree with the intent at all. So to be clear about that, but
Last comment,
Yes.
please. Thank you. One last quick comment. I think it's all about, as you mentioned, educating our residents and our contractors, as Mr. Crayland mentioned, is getting that word out and making people aware of something that they maybe aren't aware of. I think that's the key, the presentation and the education part of it. And I think we could be successful in that. It's not going to happen overnight, but door hangers, website, et cetera, and reaching out to the contractors and just reminding them that this isn't something that we're going to continue to do if council approves it.
so what's the punitive damage if we don't comply? Are we then going after the homeowner? Or are we going after the contractor? And how and what right do we have? What's the path if there isn't, if said contractor doesn't comply with ordinance? Thank you.
Yeah, typically, what occurs is ultimately they receive a citation, the property owner.
Okay.
Receive a citation, and then Public Works will end up picking up the leaves, and they will have to go to court, and the cost for picking that up will be a part of the citation.
Okay.
And so that's typically the way it occurs now.
So there's a process in place, obviously, so I'm just not familiar with it. So I think, let me educate myself on that end as well.
And just to clarify, just for a practical example, there's a property of a homeowner. It's the way it works with brush. A homeowner that has a contractor that comes and cuts down a tree, places the limbs on the side of the road. Public Works supervisor of the department would go and work with the property owner on having the limbs picked
Okay.
up. Then if that didn't work, they would go to the code enforcement officer, who would then go and have a conversation with the property owner to try to resolve it before writing a citation. They'll provide things such as a warning, give a certain time period to allow for the issue to be corrected. before it gets to citations. I don't want to make it seem like the city would just automatically go and give out a citation if it's not picked up. They will work with the property owner to have it addressed. And even if it means having a conversation with the contractor that did the work.
So to clarify, this only applies to homeowners already because commercial property wouldn't.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. That's all I have, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
More comments?
No, sir.
On that, those in favor of moving the amendment of the solid waste ordinance to full council, you say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The ayes have it, and this moves forward to full council. All right. Sewer line upgrade.
All right. So what you have in front of you is an authorization to approve an upgrade to the 15-inch sewer line that runs adjacent to the Bridgeway Station development and is currently underneath the location where the Bridgeway Station pedestrian bridge will be located. During the initial phase of design, they asked for maps of our sewer system. I provided them. They asked for depths. We went out there and we surveyed the sewer line to give invert depths, which is the measurement from the ground surface to the sewer pipe. It's currently at 16 feet below ground, which is deep, but still acceptable for a 15-inch PVC pipe. As part of their final design and their final grading plan, they determined that in the landing portion of the pedestrian bridge, they wanted to raise grade 20 feet. So now my sewer line that's 16 feet below ground would be 37 feet below ground. And at 37 feet, you're outside the recommended specifications for PVC pipe. Just too much pressure on top. It's just gonna squish. I worked with the city engineer to come up with 3 potential options, how we could address the issue, because clearly the bridge is important, but so is the sewer line. Option 1 would be a cast-in-place lining for the pipe, where you basically use like an inflatable sock with a cement that you pull through it and it inverts and it solidifies. And so what you're doing is relining the inside of the pipe with cement. In that method, it would be the cheapest. It would also be the quickest. However, you do lose capacity because you're building on the inside of the pipe, so the inside of the pipe shrinks. And then secondly, while it should hold the weight, it's still underneath 37 feet of soil and a bridge landing. And if anything happened to the pipe, there would be no way for the city to service the pipe. The pipe would have to be abandoned and we'd end up having to bore a new line through the area, or option 3, pipe that around the area. Option 3 is to redesign the sewer, pipe it around the area, install manholes. It's the longest, it involves permitting, and it's the costliest option. Option 2, which is what I'm recommending, is because there's nothing built there right now. We can excavate and we can install a 15-inch ductile iron pipe and we can set it inside a casing. And how that works is a casing pipe is a steel pipe. It works like a carrier. And then inside that ductile iron pipe kind of rides, it's centered, and we call them spiders. They look like a spiky dog collar. It holds the pipe right in the center. Because the ground elevation is going to kind of undulate like this for the bridge landing, with the low points being at the manholes. That means if at any point in the future we needed to service that sewer line, we could excavate, pull the line out, replace it by sliding a new one in. It is the middle cost of the 3 options. It's still a fairly quick turnaround. There is no permitting involved. Would cost approximately $100,000. We retain all capacity, and we would have a serviceable line if anything happened, and it would be structurally sound to carry the load of the depth and the landing of the pedestrian.
He answered my first question is, did we not give a sewer map before we started this?
Oh, I always do.
I do. Are there other questions asked beforehand? Any other? Is shifting the bridge one direction or the other, does that change anything?
No, because basically, if you imagine 385, the 15-inch sewer line's running parallel to it. So even moving the bridge, you're always going to be perpendicular.
Okay,
I gave you a little map in there.
I saw it. I didn't draw the bridge on it, though.
The bridge.
Now I
is-
see the bridge.
Yeah.
I should have highlighted it.
I think even extending the bridge would end up, would end up costing more than the fix.
Right, and then what's it gonna cost to extend a bridge? They're kind of expensive.
Kind of.
So my recommendation is that we approve an upgrade to this line, allow Public Works to go with option 2, to work with Aaron Frazier. We'll put this out for bid. I believe funding. Madden.
Funding is available in the sewer budget to cover the cost.
He's got
I can go ahead and make a motion for this unless there are other questions. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion to approve an upgrade to the 15-inch sewer line at Bridgeway Station pedestrian bridge, accepting option 2 to forward to full council with a recommendation of option 2.
Motion.
second.
I have a second discussion.
Just for some humor, as I was reading through this with my accountant mind, I was like, well, option 2 sounds reasonable. Option 3, a lot of time and, dealing with other agencies. Then I flipped the page. I was like, oh yeah, option 2. Again, accountant dollars.
Any other discussion? All right, with that, those in favor of option 2 being forwarded to full council for the sewer line upgrade, please say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Guys have it, and this will get forwarded to full council. Okay. All right, on that, I think we're done, Mr. Fleener. Good. All right, moving on to public comment. Do you have any public comment?
There's no one online that's indicated they would like to speak.
Committee concerns? No committee concerns, but I hear an adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
Second, adjournment, a motion and a second. All those in favor, I'm sorry, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, like sign. Ayes have it. We are adjourned.
In our new year to order on public safety. It is 6:51. Present is myself, Carol King, Mr. Jason Kraling, and our newest member to council, Mr. Allgood. Say welcome to your first committee meeting. We'll be gentle, maybe. If we're not, it's the mayor's fault. We also have our city administrator, Mr. Madden, Chief Miller, Chief McCone, and Judge Martin is joining us remotely online. That would bring us to our first public comment. I'm not sure if we have any public comment at this time. If we do, feel free to step forward. Committee will not engage in conversation with you, but we'd love to hear from anyone that has a comment at this time. If not, you have another opportunity at the end.
There's no one.
All right. Moving on to reading and approval of the minutes from November the 1st. What's committee's pleasure?
This time I'd like to make a motion to approve the committee meetings from November the 1st, as is stated here.
Thank you, Mr. Kraling. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Allgood. Any discussion, corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion for approval of the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We'll now move to the reports from our city officers. We have Chief McCone, you're up first.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. Go over budgets report real quick. We're ideally remaining at 49%. We're currently at 74%. So we're 25% on the budget currently right now. Any questions on that or? Number two is the capital purchase update. Just, I'm gonna try to get through this and explain it, help you understand it. In the 2021 budgets, we had in the capital to purchase a pickup truck for our fire marshal's division. I did not write, or we did not get two POs for that. It was all under one PO, but it should have been two different POs, one for the truck and one for accessories, lights, and camper and all that. So when that was turned in at the end of the year, only partial of that went through the budget, or all of it went through, but I need to have two different POs. So I did not, and I got an invoice from the supplier for the camper and the lights and so forth. So it was $9,000. $9,911.10. So what I need to do now is we have in our CIP this year for a repeater upgrade for our repeater system of $8,000. We went to the 800 megahertz radio, so we will not have to do that. We can take care of that out of this year's budget, if y'all are good with that. I'll give y'all an update on that.
Thank you, Chief McCone. So Chief and I discussed this, and basically the budget will cover what's technically an overage because it wasn't picked up in the former budget year. So the truck itself was around 25.
20, I think it's 20, I got it wrote down right here. Was 27,588.90.
So we had that, what do we budget, like 35?
37.5.
37? Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I told Chief, I said, just, to make it simple, there should have been two POs. There were not two POs, but there's money in the budget to cover it this go around. So basically staff and the chief wanted to be transparent and let us know that that was the deal. So if you have any questions, I know he'll be more than happy to answer because he's got it all clear in his head.
We done one this year.
We're looking at Holly.
It's right this year. We got two POs. She's the one, like I said, helped me out with that and made me understand how that went. So,
Sir, thank you for letting us know. Okay, if there's no questions, then we'll move on to Judge Martin.
Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
In reference to our budget, the Judicial Department is currently 5% under. I just wanted to inform you all as well that we are still under that court order to maintain safety in the courtroom. And so we have to wear a mask at all time while in the courtroom conducting court. If there's any change or updates to this order, I'll make sure that Mr. Madden receives that immediately and then he can forward it all to you. But that's all that I have this evening.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Any questions for Judge Martin? All right, we have none at this time. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Chief Miller.
We're all good. We should be currently at 51%, but we're at 59% right now. We just sent some officers down to Saluda for the 18 police cars come in, so they picked those up. They took them to Unique so they can get outfitted. Also, after 10 weeks and rehab, Sergeant Harold just came home today. And so we're just gonna give him a couple days and let him get situated before we go visit him, but he's coming along pretty good.
Thank you for that update. I was thinking about him driving to work this morning and was going to ask you about him tonight. So,
Talk to good, he can sure text.
well, I know he's glad to be at
do that.
home. Send him
Oh,
our
yes.
well wishes, please.
Absolutely.
Any questions for Chief Miller? All right, I think we're good for now. Thank you so much. Okay, we have no unfinished business, so we will move right into new business of the evening. The first item, let me get to my page 6. Is the appointment of a new administrative judge. So I know you all have read this, but Mr. Madden and Judge Martin interviewed Ms. Howard back in December and are making a recommendation to hire her or to appoint her to be the administrative judge. As you can see, the fiscal impact is minimal, and she will only be paid when she's needed to come into work. So if you have any questions, feel free to direct that to Judge Martin or Mr. Madden. It's pretty straightforward. We lost one, so we needed to have a replacement.
Ms. King, may I please add something?
Yes, ma'am.
Just so you know, in reference to the financial impact due to COVID, if the mandatory judge school or training is going to be online, that cost will be a lot lower than that.
Oh, okay, thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am.
Updating us on that. Currently, we have it at approximately $2,200 for the mandatory judge school. But it could, as Judge Martin said, be lower than that. There's no questions. Do I have any?
Sounded like recommends approval of Sierra Howard for part-time.
Thank you, Mr. Crowley. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to forward the recommendation to full council, say aye. Aye. None opposed. Motion carries. Thank you, Judge Martin, on that.
Thank you.
Okay, that leads us next to an ordinance to restrict trucks along Hanby Drive. Again, I'll do an overview of this, and if there's any questions, I'll let Mr. Madden handle that. But this came to us from a concerned resident of trucks entering Hanby Drive. I think it's a very valid concern for that small stretch of road that is narrow and has residential homes on either side. So what you have in front of you is an ordinance that would restrict trucks from traveling along the stretch of Hanby. And it would also include the signage that would go up through our Public Works Department. So those truckers are notified that they're not allowed through that Hanby Drive street any longer.
Let's have a quick question.
Sure.
With that, so this will be commercial truckers who don't have a reason to be in there. So if somebody's moving, that would be a reason to be in the neighborhoods. It's just for through traffic. We would post signs basically to that effect. I'm gonna put my Mike Reynolds hat on here. Is how's that gonna be enforced, and what happens if we do identify that?
Yeah, so they will be pulled over and receive a citation, or warning, to educate them not to use Hanby Drive as a pass-through. Because it's a state road, the state Department of Transportation usually takes the position that all of their roads are available for traffic. And so, if approved by council, the ordinance will then allow staff to get permits in-house to put the signs up to restrict traffic, but usually it will be a citation.
Would this help the issue with trucks turning around right this Hanby, that turnaround area? I know we've had complaints. I've been stuck behind it myself.
Yeah, some. So this would alleviate the issue of folks that are traveling along Forester Drive and making left-hand turns onto Hanby, but they veer out into that grassy area to make the turn. Secondly, staff has reached out to the Food Lion Distribution Center to make them aware of the concerns and have requested that they instruct their delivery drivers better, and also to possibly increase the signage so that delivery drivers that are traveling towards Hanby Drive on Forester from 276 will not miss the turn into the distribution center.
Mr. Allgood?
Do we know what the signs will read? Does it have to do with weight or the number of axles?
Yes, so the signs will clearly explain that this is for 18, really semi trucks, anything over 6 wheels. So that, and there are multiple areas, a lot of residential neighborhoods have this sign in front of it when you turn into a neighborhood, so trucks don't turn around. So it'll be clear. There'll be no mistaking that you shouldn't travel down Hamby Drive once the signs are up.
And again, thank you for reaching out to Food Line. I think that's part of just educating our businesses and, you know, in today's age, we all go by our Waves app and our GPS to get us where we need to go. And if you're not born and raised here or been here for 30 years, you may not realize where Hamby Drive is taking you. So what's the pleasure of committee at this time?
I'd like to make a motion to forward the ordinance restricting trucks along Hamby Drive to full council.
Thank you, Mr. Crowland. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the last thing we have on the under new business tonight, you'll find on page 12. For those of us that have been on council for a while, we went through this not long ago with another neighborhood. So Chief Miller can refresh our memory on the procedure that a traffic study is requested. And I'll let you take the floor, Chief Miller.
Yes, ma'am. In May of 2021, Mr. Harden, who's a resident of Forest Creek subdivision, relayed a concern to the police department about excessive speed and residential safety in the neighborhood. At that time, that was the only complaint that we had throughout the city as far as a traffic complaint. So we went ahead and put the digital signboard, which is a speed measuring device, and also it's a speed measuring device, and it also records the speed of internally the speeds of the offenders and the people driving by. It was left out for 2 weeks. This was level 1 of the traffic calming study. The study started May the 21st, 2021 through June the 3rd, 2021. An estimate, it was 1,520 cars went through the first week. Both weeks was 3,149 cars with a total of 6 violations. It gives you a 10% leeway from 25 to 35, which means that 0.001% of the vehicles that came through were speeding. Let me see. At this point, like I say, it's not considered a cut through, and we continue to monitor it and periodically check through normal patrol efforts. The traffic calming study, let me see. The traffic collected showed the road met volume requirements to be eligible for a traffic calming, but did not meet the minimum threshold. Once we did the traffic calming and everything, at that point too, we received a petition. We received 40 signatures on the petition. 4 people opted to have their name taken off and went to verify. The codes officer went through and verified everybody's. There's a total of 53 homes, so at least 40 in the beginning, 36 in the end, which would be over 60% of the homes signed the petition to get speed humps. I put bumps, but it's actually humps. There's a big difference I found out from DOT. Based on the attached cost estimate, it's with the speed bump, the speed hump, and signage and painting on the road, it comes to approximately $500 per speed bump. The paper, the ones I gave you, I've got them highlighted. That's the ones, it's if you turn to the second page, that's the times, and that's all 14 days. It's all put in there together, and it comes up with a percentage of the vehicles. The highest one was 54 miles per hour. That was at 1 o'clock that was 1 o'clock, and that was on sorry, I locked my office, locked the other form in there, but we had one that was 54, one that was 37, and four that was right around 34 at 4 o'clock. That's the only speeding we had at that time. Based on the traffic Coleman study, the traffic data collected on Forester Creek does not meet justified speed bumps. However, like I said, over 60% of the property owners in the Forester Creek subdivision signed the petition, support having speed bumps. And basically, we'd like to put it council's consideration and direction on the installation of level 2 traffic calming methods if it is requested. Basically, we would ask for, they would ask for a speed hump, and we've got guidelines on where they're supposed to be placed and how far apart they are, and also the signage and the paint for the road.
Chief, will there be two? Okay, don't laugh. Are there going to be bumps or humps?
I'm sorry.
'Cause you keep,
They're going to be humps.
they're going to be humps. So the
No,
so the
bumps are-
bump is what
Yeah, they're humps.
is the
Bumps
bigger
are-
one.
Yes, bumps are not as wide, but taller, and they'll mess up your vehicle.
Is there a reason why we're doing humps versus?
The humps are shorter, they're easier on the vehicle, and also on a hump, you can still do the speed limit going over it. The speed limit, not much over, so you don't want to jump it, but it's wider and shorter to the ground. That way it doesn't affect people far like a speed bump would.
The ones that were put in recently on Edgewood, those are humps.
Humps, yes, ma'am. And over behind the old Bilo, there's a couple that were just put in within the past couple of years. They're humps also.
So is the residents' request that we go with the,
If I can, I just,
I guess the reason I'm asking is because, you know, it always comes up with our fire trucks and our police vehicles and just to clarify, I always respect, you know, you met the volume requirements, did not meet the speed 85 percentile.
Right.
However, you know, by my math, 75% of the residents are in favor of this. So, you know, I'm one who may not like a hump or a bump, but if 75% of the residents on the street feel it's necessary, then you know, I'm not going to argue with that. But I do have concerns about the difference because it's not a cut through road.
yeah, and I would, Mr. Harden is here. That submit, just want
Oh,
to make.
that might be you.
I'll give you an example. As far as the speed humps, the fire trucks and the police vehicles, we're going to slow down regardless,
Right.
but we can go over it at a certain speed. Now, if you go down to Mauldin Elementary, going to the bus loop, those are speed bumps. A fire truck and a police car will almost have to stop before they go over them.
What were put, oh, my memory lapsed, off of Smith Hines?
I believe those are humps. I'm not, and Chief Miller, let me know
Those are humps.
if this is incorrect.
DOT doesn't,
Yeah, outside of Bethel, I don't know if we have residential areas with bumps.
don't have any with bumps, and DOT doesn't authorize bumps. They want the humps because the bumps have done some humps and bumps.
I know.
They've done so much damage to vehicles.
Blame me.
They've done so much damage to vehicles that we, that's what they go.
Even, over by Butler Park, that area, those are also the
Humps.
Yes, ma'am.
humps. Yeah. Okay. Yes, sir, Mr. Grayling.
I guess one of the questions I have is, have we looked at just putting stop signs along Thruway Stop? There's four areas there to slow down the traffic.
I don't have my readers on.
So you got West Creek Drive and Creek Drive. We're to go with, that'd be what, 4 3-way stops. At the end of the day, that's what you're trying to do, is you're trying to slow the traffic down. If you put stop signs there, you can get the same thing without any damage to vehicles or that kind of stuff. Just a thought. I don't want to side rail this, but
The only problem with that, honestly, is after a while, they'll get used to the stop signs. and they'll just.
Yeah, rolling stop.
Yeah, do the rolling stops.
The Carolina rolling stop.
Yes, sir.
We're all
Yes, sir.
familiar
So-
with, but,
And that's a problem with residential areas, like I say, I mean, out you going Old Mill and, Miller, you're gonna have to stop, but in a neighborhood like this where it's further back and they're, at some point, they're gonna get comfortable and just roll right through them.
I guess I look at it as not blow, they wouldn't blow through them. And then there's also the opportunity for revenue generation for the Malden City Police.
Right.
If it becomes a problem. But, okay, that's just a question I had if we look at that.
So one question that I have, there were 53 homes of which in the end, I think it was 36 because 4 removed themselves from the petition,
Yes, sir.
which I think is about 67%.
Correct.
Not that that matters, 67, 75, we're talking.
I thought they were just removing their names because they didn't want it on the petition, but they still, so I misunderstood that.
No, there was 4 that actually wanted their names removed.
So they did not support it,
Correct.
not because
Correct. So
of
you've got
being
36.
transparent. Okay, gotcha.
And I think it's 60% is what.
Yes.
One of my questions was, I'm trying to find my, here we go. This is a question that we probably don't have the answer for yet, but I'm just kind of looking ahead on this. It says at least 60% of the impacted property owners and 100% of property owners with 100 feet of the proposed traffic calming device. The reason why I bring that up, we have 2 very short roads in the long run, 2 very short roads. Could one of the opposing households be in an area where a speed hump would go in?
That is quite possible. I would have to get the officer to go back out there, or I could go out there and double check.
And I would echo what Mr. Kraling said about a possibility of a 3-way stop. While there might be rolling stops, it's a
Slowing
slowdown.
down. Right.
It's still going to be a slowdown. And ultimately, that's what I think we're looking for here is a slowdown. And that might be more cost effective and more economical long term.
I think what Mr. Harden's talking about is right there on Forester Creek Road, where it's just straight. That's when they come out, they're just nonstop all the way to the stop sign at the road. And like I say, we had one that got up to 54. I don't know where he started, but he was in a hurry.
So there's 2 proposed. Would there be one on either side? Because I know that there's certain rules as to where they can be placed.
They have to be placed, I think.
So
it's 300
proximity of driveways and
Right, and
side of the road
sewage
and-
and all.
right.
Yes, ma'am. Mr. Harden is asking for 2. I honestly think that one on Forester Creek Road would do, because I don't, like I say, Forester Creek Drive there's really no access. I mean, you have to, when you come down to the cut through, you're gonna have to slow down anyway. Know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Let's see.
So he's saying on this
I
side.
didn't realize that way through.
Right.
Right, it's one way in, and then you turn right and go down Forester to get to Forester Creek Way. There's no entrance.
Thank you, Brandon.
One more question.
Yes, sir.
The last time this was done was it Edgewood?
Yes, sir.
And do you know how that compared, its traffic study compared to this one?
I think it was pretty much the same thing. You had more people that wanted it than the actual speed.
I think the numbers are almost, they're very comparable. In fact, the percentage of homeowners here may be a fraction more. I think Edgewood was right at that 62%, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
Um,
It's more along the lines of the actual traffic study is what I was questioning, because at 0.001%, I didn't know if like what Edgewood came up at 4% or 3%, or was it even lower than 0.00?
I've got that file up in my office, but as she said, I think it's pretty much, there was a whole lot less speeding than like I say, as far that people wanted the speed humps.
Yeah, well, Mr. Ogwood, what we can do is depending on the action of committee, if it's forwarded to council, we can provide that information before it goes to actual full council, so you can vet that and the committee can vet that prior to council taking action on it. Yep. We can
Got that.
provide you
I've
with
got
that
that
previous
upstairs.
study.
I can provide that if needed.
And if it's committee's desire to forward this to council for consideration, if, I know it's a short turnaround, but if we could, if possible, have an area where you think
Absolutely.
they will be placed. And is there any negotiation with the hump versus a bump? Again, I have a hard time telling a resident of a neighborhood that I don't live in and that I don't travel on a daily basis that I don't want you to have a speed hump or a bump because of a traffic study when the majority of the residents feel that it's necessary to slow cars down. And I know there's children in that neighborhood and it only takes one accident for folks to be sorry. So I would support this either way. I'll just go on the record and say that, Mr. Harden, but I do prefer to have the more the bump. I just think
Bumper
it
hump.
does. Bump.
Well,
No, the hump then.
the hump.
See, I can't get it straight. You know what?
Because I think with the
One
bump,
that's not like that.
because with a bump, you're gonna.
Is
we're
there
gonna have-
signage? And I mean, I go down, I don't travel it daily, but for me, I have a sedan and it sits slow to the road. So I'm going to slow down regardless, but it does get your attention and you know that those are coming up on those roads. So for me as a driver, I try to be conscious regardless, but I know there's whatever road I'm traveling that has them, which aren't that many, I get prepared prior to, and I'm going to slow down regardless of if it's, I'm not going to say it again, but
Now with a bump, I think we'd probably have vehicles damaged and would be like a liability. That's the city put 'em in.
so that would be my request for consideration to come back with that for, yeah, I'm not going to say the word again. Do you have anything you'd like to say? It's not now, but we'll break the rules. It's okay.
But I'll try to answer some of your questions. I mean, currently there's one stop sign that I can see from my front porch on the fourth house on the left going in on Forester Creek Drive. So
Mr. Darn, can you just, I don't want to cut you off. Can you just speak into the mic because online it's being recorded.
okay, can you hear me now? On the fourth house on the left coming into the subdivision, I can see the first stop sign. And I wish everybody had a rolling stop because some people blow through it. The other thing about where I live, if you turn it off Miller Road, it's downhill all the way. You can see people coming down the hill and all of a sudden, I think they realize they're in the subdivision and they start hitting brake lights. Or if it's a teenager, they know they're getting inside their parents' house or, or there's cars parked on the road. The stop signs are maintained by the homeowners association as well. Very attractive looking, especially after we redo them, but every now and then you have to upgrade them.
So Mr. Harden, I'm sorry. So you already have stop signs at West Creek Drive?
Yes.
Okay.
And one on each end, then there's another Creek Drive down at
Yes,
the
sir.
bottom. The reason they're not on the petition, there's no addresses on those two streets. All the addresses are on Forester Creek Drive or Forester Creek Way.
Okay, I
Can't
understand.
get signatures where there's
Yes, sir.
no addresses. My wife and I did the petition work. We discussed with residents that we would look for the gentlest solution. And I didn't know the difference between a speed hump and a speed bump before tonight, but I've been to Edgewood Drive and looked at those. And not that it's not up to me because it looks like I am representing the neighborhood. The speed hump should be sufficient.
Okay.
That's just one, if I could quote Terry, one man's opinion.
And I think we learned, because this is, I can only recall, this is only the third time that we've had a discussion like this for in the time that I've been on council. For me, I learned last time, and I think staff did, that once again, I say the word a lot, communication, and we had a lack of communication with residents. It sounds like you did your homework, because things that we may not think of, such as a slow down, speed, hump, bump ahead sign could be right at your mailbox. And, folks that sign the petition don't realize that there's signage that goes along with it. And there's certain footage that has to be, between, what I'm trying to say. So, in saying that, that's why I think it's important that we know where they're going to be placed, where that signage would be, and how it's going to affect those property owners. But again, I support your efforts, and I understand.
Okay, and we do have children, we have people walking pets, we have no sidewalks. I'm a grandparent who, during the summertime, spend several days a week taking care of 3 grandchildren. We have them during the week, 2 after school and 1 all day, for several days a week. So it's, I've got skin in the game.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for coming tonight.
So what I'll do is I'll get the paperwork as soon as I can for you, Mr. Allgood, to get you those percentages. Also, tomorrow, myself and Lieutenant Hodrell will go out there, and we'll measure where they need to be, and I can get that on the map for you by the next time we meet.
And the signs too, I think that's important.
Yes, ma'am.
So that we
Yeah,
know
that's-
that ahead of time, and those homeowners realize this is the caveat that goes along with it.
Right. So yeah, they'll have the signs and the paint on the road right there.
Right.
Where they're at. So you're wanting us to get with those people and let them know where the signs are going?
No, not yet, but if you could just let us know as council, and then we can, if it passes, we can cross that bridge.
Gotcha.
That time, if that's the pleasure of council, committee, to go ahead and forward it, and then we can have further discussion.
And just for the record, I'm pretty sure these are city roads, but he said they maintain the stop signs. I'm assuming we may technically maintain those stop signs. This is all city roads, correct? For the record.
Not necessarily. So if it's a regular sign that you see that the city puts out, the city puts out very basic signs.
No, I guess what I'm saying is these roads are city roads. That's what a very.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the signs. I'm
Yeah, no,
sorry.
no.
Yes, no, these are city roads.
We don't necessarily maintain the signs. It could be neighborhood signs that, like, that the
A little bit
homeowners
more,
association.
Pizzazz, a little bit better.
Yeah, a little bit nicer than
aesthetically
the
pleasing.
standard sign. Right.
HOA have maintained.
Okay, so what's the pleasure of committee?
This time I'd like to make a motion to forward the traffic calming speed humps proposal to full council.
Thank you, Mr. Curlin. Have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? And just for the record, Chief Miller will be getting the prior traffic study to committee and council prior to our meeting, as well as the proximity of where these speed humps and signs would be placed in the neighborhood.
I'll go ahead. You want me to go ahead and do it for both streets?
Please. Thank you. All right, no other discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. None opposed. Motion carries.
That's all I have.
Thank you for the information. Thank you again. Okay, so that concludes our new business. Now's the proper time for the public comment. So if anybody has any public comment, seeing and hearing none, we'll move on to committee concerns. No committee concerns at this time. What do I have on adjournment?
Motion we adjourn.
Thank you, Mr. Allgood. Got a motion? Do I have a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. We stand adjourned at 7:28. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, I'd like to go ahead and call this Finance and Policy Committee meeting to order. The date is January 4th, Tuesday. Time is Not sure if that's correct. 7:30. This is the fourth meeting of the evening. Members present are myself, Michael Reynolds, Ms. Carol King, and Ms. Diane Kuznar, as well as our department heads, Ms. Holly Abercrombie and Mr. Mark Putnam, and Brandon Madden. Various audience members, we thank you for coming. First item is going to be a line for public comment. Do we have any online? None present. Moving on, what do I hear on the reading and approval of minutes dated December 6th, 2021?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes as submitted for December the 6th.
Thank you, Ms. Kuznar. I have a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Carries unanimous. Next item is going to be communications from city officers. Mr. Madden, you're up first.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, the administration budget is in line for where it should be, entering the seventh month of the fiscal year, and looking forward to the upcoming budget process for fiscal year 2023.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Madden. I realize we don't have a lot on anything on the agenda tonight, but I thought it important as we move into the budget season that we hold a meeting and give Ms. Abercrombie a chance to update us on where we're at in the budget, and as well as Mr. Putnam to update us on open enrollment, with just closed up with insurance. So that said, Ms. Abercrombie, you're up.
Good evening. Everybody across the board seems to be in line with where they're supposed to be, according to their budgets, and there's nothing, that we really need to report on. Nothing crazy is going on right now. So, if you have any specific questions, I'd be glad to address those. If not,
Not on the current budget. On budget update on your FY23, where are you at in that process?
okay, yeah. We have, completed the capital, improvement. Had the committee get all the items and rank them. So Brandon and I are currently looking through that and seeing, all the wishes and, what kind of pot of money we have to go with that. And then we have, released Brandon, had his memo attached to the documents sent out before I took my Christmas hiatus. And, so
When was that,
department-
December 1st? No.
department heads now have their budget documents to start working with. And we will be having, I think it's in early February when those have to be turned in to us and be reviewed, and we'll go over, Brandon and I will go over them with each department head as we get them. And that's where we are,
So the
chugging along.
sampling size so far is firemen are asking for fire trucks, policemen are asking for police cars.
We've already
Public
done
Public Works is
Probably
asking for
trash trucks.
Christmas decorations.
already done all that.
No, again, I appreciate you giving that update, but I do think as we're coming into this season, it's important to keep talking about where you're at in budget review, and we'll be diving right in very soon. For those of you new to council, there's a budget calendar out. As Mr. Madden, I'm sure you forwarded to Mr. Allgood the budget calendar. That's several important dates that we'll be talking about very soon. Any other questions for Ms. Abercrombie? You're holding your finger on the mic there. You have anything, Mr. Madden?
Well, I will add, just so council knows, that the expected revenue that department directors kind of will use as a guideline for any budget increases from this current fiscal year is about 2 to 3%. We're not seeing a very large jump in revenue, so it's actually modest growth is what we're projecting. Of course, that may change, but that serves as a guideline for the department directors when they put together their budget submittals.
Thank you, Mr. Madden. I think in South Carolina specifically, we had 1.6% population growth from people fleeing from other parts of the country, and was one of the, I think it was 5th or 6th fastest growing states in the country. So, while you don't see that immediately, those demands are coming down the pipe, and that makes budget time even more challenging. So We appreciate both of your leadership as we move into that. Any other questions or comments? Very good. Ms. Abercrombie, thank you. Mr. Putnam, our HR Director.
Good evening, Chairman Reynolds and committee. Open enrollment went fairly well. Really didn't have any major issues or bumps, so we're glad that that's over and out of the way for another year. And in preparation for the budget, we've been talking with Administrator Madden about the need to possibly look at a new comp and class study. The last one we did was right at the end of 2017 going into 2018. So it's going to be something that we're going to be needing to look at over the next couple of, we'll be talking with you about that over the next couple of months. We certainly will probably want to delve into that possibility in the next year or so, because, it's been 4 years going on 5, and you've got to kind of stay, and get a good look at where you are and where we want to be. So that's what you'll be getting from us in the next couple of months.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Putnam. Mr. Madden, in your experience, how often are you doing comp and class studies?
Typically about every 3 to 5 years, you
5 is
just
what I would
kind of look
expect.
at
Okay.
everybody, see where you are.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Madden. Any questions for Mr. Putnam?
I was just going to reiterate what you said. I was going to verify that it was 3 to 5. I think I remember that from when we went through this last time. So yeah, thank you for being on top of that. 'cause I
Yeah, we're
think
getting
that's
on the
important.
end of. what
We
we're
are,
doing.
but that's okay. I'm disappointed you didn't get up and say go Gamecocks since you have Michael and I in front of you. Mark went to the ball game.
All right.
I heard he dumped the jar.
Sorry, Polly.
He dumped the jar of mayonnaise on himself to celebrate.
He's the one that bumped
Yeah.
the coach in the head. No, I'm teasing.
Okay, again, no unfinished or new business. I just wanted a chance to make sure we were staying on top of budgetary concerns moving forward. We do have another item for another line for public comment, seeing any flashing? No raised hands? Thank you, Mr. Madden. There's no public comment. Last item's committee concerns. Anything to address? Very good. Thank you, committee. What do I hear on adjournment?
So moved.
A motion? and a
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. That was the last meeting for the evening. Same bat time next